What is going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Share this out, do all the good stuff. Share it on podcast platforms. Share it to your dog, your friend, your cat, that person you met at the bar. I don't know. But we have another game to cover this week. We have the Cincinnati Bengals against the New York Football Giants on Sunday Night Football. And, of course, the Giants will be home for that one. They'll be home for two games. The week after this one, they'll be home for the Philadelphia Eagles game, which we'll definitely go over. Unfortunately, I was unable to find a Bengals content creator / writer that would be available to help us cover the game. So it will just be me this week, and then hopefully next week with the Eagles and the Steelers after that will be able to cover, obviously the team and then, get the opponent's perspective. So the Bengals ruins our little 5-game streak that we did have. But nonetheless, right, let's go into first thoughts, what it means for each team coming into this game. The Giants sit at 2-3. The Bengals sit at 1-4. The Bengals are the more desperate team. They're the more talented team, in my opinion, definitely on the offensive side of the ball. The defense, not so much in the secondary, but their front, I feel like, should be doing better than they have been. But the Bengals as a team, they're 1-4. They are last in their division. They're 0-3 at home. They're 1-1 and away. In division, they are 0-1, and they are 0-3 in the conference, which is no good. No good at all. I don't remember who they won against. I believe it was Carolina. They won against Carolina, and then they lost to the rest of the teams that they've played. But if you're Zach Taylor, if you're Joe Burrow, if you're a Bengals fan, you're probably saying to yourself, being in games is not just, what we want. It's not a moral victory parade. This is the Bengals. They were expected to go to the playoffs. They were expected to compete for a Super Bowl. Obviously, they let Joe Mixon walk and a couple other moves happen, but they've been pretty much in every game this season. It's been a score, at least, that they have been losing by. Last week was the overtimer against the Ravens. The week before that, they won. The week before that was the Commanders. The week before that was Kansas City. The week before that was the Patriots game. But again, if you're a Bengals fan or you're in the Bengals perspective, that's not the standard. The standard is win football games, probably one of the tougher divisions in football. And this game pretty much is the season, right? If you look at the Bengals' upcoming schedule after this, you play the Browns, which you're in Cleveland for that. Then you play the Eagles and the Raiders. So you might be able to squeak out some wins, and who knows, right? This is the NFL. A lot of crazy shit happens all the time. But you got to win this game first if you're Cincinnati. You got to win this game first. And the odds, as much as they are against Cincinnati, they're for Cincinnati. Now let's look at the Giants. You come off a week where you didn't have your running back and you didn't have Malik Neighbors. Your defense played really well. They only gave up about 13 points when you take a look at the grimy part of it because of the fumble. And, of course, your special team scored 7. So, really 6 because they kneeled the PAT. But your offense in total scored 23 points, which is the most they've put up this season, which is a good thing, but you're going to need more, and we'll talk about it throughout the course of the show. You're going to need more. Now, the Giants, is the season over? And I'm trying to, again, I have my own views. I'm trying to look at this objectively. Last week, I didn't really sit in front of the TV and act like a fan. I acted like somebody who was a reporter. I acted with zero emotion. When they scored a touchdown, I'm like, okay, they scored a touchdown. When they gave up a touchdown, I'm like, they gave up a touchdown. I had no emotion. Now, I'm not telling you guys to feel that way, of course, but it's just the losing has gotten to me, and I don't know what's fake and what's not anymore with this team. Now, you could realistically have a season if you beat the Bengals, you beat one of the Eagles and the Steelers, and then you're in the game against Washington and the Panthers before the bye week. But you have to win this game first. There's so many things on the line, of course, here, right? You have a ceremony at halftime, which I just don't think is ideal. You shove the ceremony right in, and I don't know. The Giants really don't do well when the ceremonies happen, especially on primetime, which, again, on primetime, they haven't been good. They're already 0-1 this season on primetime, so again, the odds are stacked against them in that front. You're going against a high, powerful offense, a desperate team. The Giants can't get complacent. They can't. This is a game you have to be aggressive, not too aggressive on certain fronts and in certain situations, and you have to knock Cincinnati on their ass. Of course, it's not going to be a blowout unless the Bengals blow us out. The Giants really don't blow out teams. But you got to knock Cincinnati on their ass. You got to stay in the fight. And at the end of the day, you want to have a season at 3-3 going into a divisional game next week. And you want to leave Cincy without a season, without the hopes of that. So there's that. Those are the first thoughts. If you guys have any more, of course, feel free to comment. Now, as far as the injury report goes, let's go over Cincinnati. Chase Brown, the running back, he was limited with a quad injury. Throughout the course of the week, he is questionable. Mike Hilton, the slot corner, he is questionable, but he was full practice this week with a knee injury. DJ Ivy, the corner, he is doubtful, which is interesting because he was full practice all week. And that's pretty much that for the injury report. Osai is healthy, Moss is healthy, Mims is healthy, Rankins is healthy, Jenkins is healthy, which is going to be an interesting matchup for the interior line. But to be honest with you, I'm not too scared of their defensive line. And Gesicki, he is going to play as well. Now for the Giants, they do have two key injuries that have hit them within the past 2 weeks. Malik Neighbors, I know a lot of people are going to talk about the concert shit. I'm not going to waste my time on it because what's done is done. I think it's a fart in the wind if you talk about, hey, the Giants win against the Bengals, right? That's a fart in the wind. No one cares about that. If it's a loss, maybe it's more talked about, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to say Malik Neighbors isn't a difference maker, but I think he's going, the Giants have some sort of a game plan with him not in the game. And they have to go through with that game plan because Malik Neighbors is not the New York Giants. He is a part of the New York Giants. He's not the New York Giants. The other one is Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, Thibodeau has done better in the last 2 games, right? The first game, I'm like, where is he? The second game was like, The third game, he showed up a little bit. The fourth game, he had some holding penalties on him, and he also accumulated a sack off of rookie offensive tackle, and he had a nice game last game against the Seattle Seahawks. So he's doing better. I think he's winning a lot more. Of course, the production isn't totally there, and I'm a guy that's going to be hard on any of these guys, right? I was criticizing Thibodeau early, but he is out 4 to 6 weeks with a wrist injury, so likely he doesn't come back after the bye. Don't rush him. I mean, we'll see if we have a season, but again, we'll wait on that. The corners are healthy. Those guys are healthy. Devin Singletary's questionable with a groin injury. I wouldn't mind if he was out again. I'm not trying to wish injury, but at the same time, Tyrone Tracy did a very good job with the Giants last week. I'm not going to say that he's going to replicate his production, but at the same time, he gave the Giants a balance in the ground game and on offense. And the other guy questionable, and I'm worried about this. I am worried about this, is Jamie Gillen. Left hamstring injury. Yeah, I'm a little scared because the Giants twice before have mishandled Graham Gano, and they held a punter workout on Friday. There was a couple of names that you guys probably would be familiar with. Don't know who Nolan Cooney is. Don't know who Lou Headley is. Ty Zentner, don't know who that is. Matt Hack, the former Bills punter, and the former Dolphins punter, and Presley Harvin, the former Bronco. I think he was with the Broncos for a little bit, but he was drafted by the Steelers as some competition to Jordan Berry, and then they got another punter in there. So he's been familiar with some of the teams around the league. But the Giants can't fuck it up because you would like to not punt either way because of the game you're going to be playing with the Cincinnati Bengals. But at the same time, if you do end up punting, you do need somebody to punt and put the Bengals in bad field position. You can't have Jamie Gillen punt 20 yards or 30 yards and it's a shank. You can't do that because field position is going to play a key part in this game. So sign one of those guys. I don't know how much the rule is stretched now because of the Sunday Night Football game. I know, of course, I think if you sign somebody Saturday, not from the practice squad, but if you sign somebody Saturday, they wouldn't be able to play. I don't know what the rule is, but I would like to think it's a little extended because they do play at 8:20 on Sunday. So my opinion is sign one of those guys to the practice squad, elevate them, or just sign them in general. And if you don't have that, see if Makatami could punt. I think he can. So elevate him. Don't make any mistakes. Like, even if Gillen says he's good to go, you want to have that backup just in case. And at the end of the day, we'll see. So that's the injury report for both teams. Let's go through the Giants offense and the Bengals offense and the Bengals defense and the Giants defense. So we'll start with the Cincinnati Bengals in total. 9th in total yards on offense, 5th in passing offense, 28th in rushing offense, and 4th in points per game. Now, defensively, they're 26th in total yards per game, 19th against the pass, 30th against the run, and 31st in points per game. Now, you look at their percentages analytically, 5th in pass percentage, 26th in run percentage, 8th in pass percentage on first down, and 25th in run percentage on first down. They are 10th in blitz percentage, so the Giants are, I think, 9th, and they're 10th. 26th in pressure percentage and 29th in sacks. And honestly, that's not really something you would expect from this unit because you do have B.J. Hill, who has solid production on the interior usually. You do have Sam Hubbard, and you do have Trey Hendrickson, who has, I would say, more than half of the production in the pass rush room for the Cincinnati Bengals. And it looks like they haven't been able to get to the quarterback. And just overall, the defense has been a problem for Cincinnati. When you look a couple of years ago, people were talking about how good Lou Anarumo was and how he should get a DC job. I'm sorry, not DC job, but a head coaching job. But, it's a year-to-year league and shit changes. So the Giants, offensively, 20th in total yards per game, 13th in passing offense, which is a complete shock. I don't think the Giants have had a 13th best passing offense probably since, I don't know, Eli Manning. Maybe I'm stretching it. Anyway, 24th in rushing game and 27th in points per game. That's where they need to vastly improve for this game. Defensively, 12th in total yards, 15th against the pass, 12th against the run, and 11th in points per game. Now you look at the analytics there. 12th in pass percentage, 21st in run percentage, 8th in pass percentage on first down, and 24th in run percentage on first down. So they're kind of shifting a little bit with Singletary out, which I like to see because you got to adapt to the game plan. And I still think, even though Jones can't throw 30, 40 times a game, I think you can still pass to set up the run and really not force any of these guys to be a bell cow. Even with the defense being one of the worst in the league against the run. You want to gash them with short yardage. You want to gash them with points. And then at the end of the game, if you have an extensive lead, just continue to gash them and close the game out. Now, defensively, they're 9th in blitz percentage, 18th in pressure percentage, and 1st in the NFL in sacks, which, again, can't really remember the last time the Giants were 1st in sacks across the NFL. That's a big credit to Shane Bowen. And I'll say this, right, before we go into the things to look for. I don't want to say they've played fraudulent teams, but the Giants have had a pretty good coast so far in terms of who they've played. Week 1 against Sam Darnold, they didn't do great, right? They gave up 14 points, essentially. I think, the final score is 28, I believe. So they only gave up 21 points. So you move to the next week, Jaden Daniels, they were like 38 minutes on the field. I hated that shit. Then against the Browns, they played a pretty good game. There was some bad spots with Deonte Banks, but they played a pretty good game. They played a nice game against the I was about to say Cleveland Browns again. The Dallas Cowboys, which you expect, okay, they're gonna shit kick us. No, they actually they did a good job. on defense. And then the last game against Seattle, and both of those teams, statistically coming into those games, were the top of the NFL in passing offense. So you're talking about production for those guys, and now you get it to the big boys with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. Those guys in talent are different from what we've seen in the past 5 weeks. DK Metcalf is great. Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. Geno Smith's solid. They're not at the talent level that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins are. This is the first real test where the Giants will have their hands full. Now, if you go into things to look for, I will pretty much start on defense, and I usually don't do that, but just because it's a talking point, we'll start on defense. There's really no way that you can absolutely contain these guys unless Joe Burrow shits his pants. For whatever reason that is. Now, he's played at MetLife, I think, once, but he's never played against the Giants, which is pretty interesting. But he's played 3 times against Shane Bowen, 2 of which were in the regular season, once in the playoffs. The Bengals won in the playoffs. I think that was an overtime game. I think, off the top of my head. And the 2 other ones, Shane Bowen won, and then the playoffs one was when Joe Burrow won. But when Joe Burrow won, he had like 360 yards. The other 2 times, he wasn't that good and only had a touchdown in the 2 games. So Shane Bowen, even with the limited talent he had in Tennessee, he's probably going into that game plan that he had and saying, okay, we could replicate some of this here because we have better talent. So they're kind of crossing over each other, if you will, right? Not only has, Burrow faced Shane Bowen when he was in the AFC, now he obviously watches the adjustments he's made as New York Giants defensive coordinator. So it's going to be a very cat and mouse game in multiple facets of this game. But there is probably no way that you're going to defend Chase, Higgins. You can't totally clamp them. I think it's going to be a hard game, either for Banks or Flott. We'll see who they put in the slot. I mean, they're probably going to rotate. I don't know if Aceves, the guy out of Princeton, I don't know if he's a slot guy. So they might do Chase in the slot and try to move Banks in a little bit. But the ideal situation is you have safety help on Banks with Chase, and then you let Flott kind of just go his route with T. Higgins. And then you have Aceves against Drew Phillips, and then, make your adjustments from there. But in terms of the philosophy, you're probably going to have to play Cowboys-esque game defense. You're probably just going to have to stick to that, right? The bend but don't break. It's not a likable defensive strategy. Trust me, it is not. But at the same time, when you have a flawed backfield that has been, I would say, saved by the front of this defense. And Joe Burrow is not a guy that hangs in the pocket for 3-4 seconds. No. He is one of the quickest in the NFL in getting the ball out. I think it's like 2.2 seconds. They got a quick, rapid offense. I can't snap, but they got a quick, rapid offense in terms of getting this ball out. So what the Giants are going to have to do is they're going to have to play their traditional bend but don't break defense. They're going to have guys up front in twists and stunts to get to the quarterback. This offensive line has not been terrible. The weakness is probably the interior because Orlando Brown, there's a good chance he might shut down Brian Burns. And then you have Oj on the other side against another former Georgia guy in Amarius Mims. And then you got Ted Karras, Cordell Volson, and Alex Kappa in the middle. So the Giants will need to get home, no question. But at the same time, your defense in the back has to hold up. And, you just have to make it work. And the Giants have to do a little swap here. You'll get what I'm saying in a minute. They have to do a swap. They have to force the Bengals to play their style of football. And they have to try to take on, and this is my opinion, this is not what they're going to do, but this is my opinion, they have to try to take on what the Bengals are doing. The Giants have not executed great in the red zone. They have not been able to close games out. Seattle, they should have closed out right then and there. The Browns game, they should have closed out right then and there. The failure to score touchdowns in the second half has been pitiful. Scoring field goals, attempting field goals, this, that, and the other thing. That's great against some of these other teams. Against the Bengals, where they have a dynamic offense and they're a desperate team right now, that shit is not going to work. You need to execute in the red zone. And you need to get as many opportunities as possible. It's always great, right? It's great to sustain drives. But at the end of the day, with this offense, you need as many opportunities as possible, which the explosive plays have to come in. Explosive plays, not, sustain a drive and then just a 20-yard run for a touchdown. No, I'm talking about 40-plus yard plays, 30-plus yard plays. I know the Giants, again, I'm talking as if we're on Venus, but we're actually on Earth here. The Giants have to adopt that philosophy for a game. And if they do and it's success, guess what? It helps you get some of these other teams who their offense can't catch up to us or their defense is bad, whatever, right? You have to force the Bengals to sustain drives, but at the same time, they cannot score 28 points. They can maybe score 25. But this is a team in total points this NFL season. I think I said they were like 5th in the league in points. But let me just go to the statistics real quick just to get my shit correct. 28 points a game. The Giants scored 23 on offense last time. Again, there were a couple scenarios where the Giants failed to convert in the red zone. That shit cannot happen. It cannot happen if you're serious about serious about winning this game, really. Fuck talking about winning this game. You got to be serious about winning this fucking game because there's a lot of shit on the line. That's it, right? Now, again, as I've said before, the season is not typically over. Because you're not eliminated. B, there's always chances you win other games. For me, again, I wouldn't be able to watch with emotion if they lost this game. But again, fuck that shit. So as far as offensively, I just talked about it a lot, right? Daniel Jones is going to have to spread the ball again. This is effectively, and I talk about it always because it's a point, and he's had a solid few weeks, right? He's not playing this great Mahomes-style football or Burrow-style football, but I think in my opinion, I think he's been playing better than 2022. Is that $40 million worth? Fuck no, right? I think he's playing turnover-free football. He's playing better than 2022 yardage-wise and production-wise because I think he's had multi-touchdowns in the last 3 games and no interceptions, which, maybe on prime time, I don't know. Well, actually, you can kind of erase that because he did have the interception against the Cowboys, but that was a fucking Hail Mary. So he's going to have to spread the ball again. Neighbors is not playing. Slayton's there. Wandale's there. I know some people talk about, Wandale and this, that, and the third. Now, their defense, they're mostly zone. Their linebackers make a shit ton of mistakes. That's favorable, honestly, for Daniel Jones because he plays better against zone defenses than man defenses. He fits that shit in the hole. Wandale Robinson is good in that light because they're not driving him off the line of scrimmage and he's just finding holes in these zones. So the Giants are set up, ideally, to have a good offensive game. Will they? I don't know. But they also, in the secondary, they don't have good corners. Hilton is probably the best they got. They're starting DJ Turner on one side, and they also have Cam Taylor-Britt, who has done some shit talking this season, not on the Giants. It's kind of backfired on him. We'll take a look at his stats in a little bit. But he'll need to attack some corners, right? You attack Patrick Peterson against the Vikings, right? You'll need to attack these guys here. And honestly, I would say a bump and carries for Tyrone Tracy is effective, right? You don't need this ground pound running game, but you need explosive plays. And honestly, Tyrone Tracy gives you the gas for those explosive plays because you saw what he did against Seattle last week. Now, is he going to have a great run for 27 yards each game? No, but he gives you that chance. He's getting better and better every week. If the Giants are blocking right and they're doing their gap scheme, over a zone scheme where you're forcing unathletic guys to get in space. It's a path to success. It is a path to success. And as far as the defense, to quickly jump back there again, you probably, and I never thought I would say this, Jackson, he doesn't look great. He got turned around by Tyler Lockett a couple of times last week. I would like to continue to keep it going, if you will, with Cordell Flott. Now, you guys know I haven't been a Cordell Flott fan for the past few weeks, even going back to the preseason. But it seems like there's this weird theory out there that he plays like shit in practice and he plays like shit in the preseason. He plays like shit in training camp. But in the games, he's not half bad. He's not too noticeable. So I would keep Flott out there. Again, I know Dory Jackson is the older guy. He's been in the league. He's probably at least once or twice shown up against these guys. Well, 2020, I don't think so. But he's played against, veteran wide receivers and star wide receivers at that. But give Cordell Flott a shot. Keep him playing. Keep the momentum moving. That's what the Giants need to do. Momentum, right? Daniel Jones needs to keep the momentum going of his solid quarterback play. Cordell Flott needs to keep his momentum moving as solid corner play. Okay? And the Giants need to win another game. Add a second one on. Why not? So statistically, let's go over it. Joe Burrow this season, 1,370 yards, 72.3 completion percentage. So he's up there with Geno Smith in completion. 12 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions and 11 sacks taken, 55 yards lost on those sacks, and a passer rating of 113.6. So this guy's the real deal, as we can, of course, figure. I'm not going to touch on the running backs. I think the Giants have actually done a pretty good job of containing the run this season, which is a shocker. And the run game isn't really that good anyway. And I will also touch on this. I forgot to touch on it. It seems like I'm always back and forth. The Cincinnati Bengals, right? I'm looking at explosive plays for the 2024 season. Now, the Bengals are bottom 10 in plays over 20, right? The Giants are higher than them, but put 20 on that. And the Bengals are second in the NFL with 5 40-plus yard plays. The Indianapolis Colts currently rank first. And as far as longest plays, right? The Bengals, I believe they're top 10. Yeah, they're top 10 in longest plays, which would be 70 yards for them. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Explosive plays. While the Giants, they rank bottom 6. So anyway, back to the statistical part. Jamar Chase, 5 touchdowns, 7 plays over 20, 17 yards per catch, and 493 yards. T. Higgins, who obviously had that contract shit in the offseason, clearly hasn't affected him too much. No plays over 20. A little surprised there. 2 touchdowns, 10.1 yards per catch, 182 yards. Mike Gesicki, who's playing this week, he's got to catch over 20 yards, no touchdowns, 10.5 yards per catch, and 178 yards on the season. And we'll also add in Andreas Cevis. He's got 2 big plays over 20. He's got 3 touchdowns. He's got 12.8 yards per catch and 153 receiving yards. Now you look at their offensive line. 11 sacks given up. Orlando Brown, 4 penalties, 1 sack. Moved to left guard, Cordell Volson, 2 penalties, a sack. Ted Karras, 0 penalties, 1 sack from the interior. Alex Kappa, 1 penalty, 2 sacks. And Amarius Mims, 0 penalties and a sack at the right tackle position. You move to their defense and some guys to pick out of the lineup there. Trey Hendrickson, 12 tackles, 3 TFLs, 3 sacks, 10 quarterback pressures, and 7 quarterback hits. You move to a guy who's been there a little bit longer in Sam Hubbard. I think he was in the 2017 class, if I'm not mistaken. But not too much production from him. 3 tackles, 2 TFLs, 1 sack, 11 quarterback pressures, 3 QB hits, and a pass deflection. A guy they signed from the Baltimore Ravens who had a phenomenal year last year in Geno Stone. He's given up 5 receptions on 9 targets. That's a good completion percentage, 55.6. but he's given up 2 touchdowns, 38 yards, 105.6 passer rating, 2 quarterback hits, also as well 23 tackles, no interceptions on the season, and 1 pass deflection. You move to the secondary. Actually, you know what? Let me go over their stud linebacker in Logan Wilson, who is still one of the better ones. Obviously, he's having a little bit of a down year. 52 tackles, 1 TFL, 4 quarterback hits, 114.9 passer rating allowed, not great, 1 touchdown, 92.9 completion percentage in coverage, not great, 82 yards. So it seems like he's not allowing a huge amount of yards in coverage, but the passer rating is not great. The touchdown thing is not great, and the completion percentage is probably the worst of them all. Again, going to the defensive side of the football, in the secondary, Cam Taylor-Britt, 5 pass deflections this season, 61.5 completion percentage allowed, 3 touchdowns, not great, 126.1 passer rating, 314 yards, and 21 tackles. You move over to DJ Turner, who's been decent, 60% completion, a total of 79.9 passer rating, no touchdowns allowed, and 13 tackles. And you move to Mike Hilton, who's been pretty much in the north his entire career, 46.2 completion percentage, 53.7 passer rating, and 12 tackles, no touchdowns allowed, only 41 yards. So he's been having a pretty solid season in terms of what he's been doing in coverage. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's start wrapping it up here. Keys to win. Keys to win. And, of course, the score prediction afterwards. Number 1 is you got to score points. You got to execute in the red zone. You got to take on a philosophy that you have not pretty much taken on your entire tenure. The Giants haven't taken on that philosophy pretty much since, Pat Shurmur, even before that in 2015 with Tom Coughlin. You got to score points. You got to execute in the red zone. You got to give yourself time to score. You can't be just, oh, yeah, we're going to sustain a drive. No. Revert off that game plan, right? Revert off that game plan. They can sustain drives. Right? They can take up as much clock as they want, even though you don't want that. And you could let them settle for field goals and whatnot. You got to score the points. You got to give yourself opportunities. So the defense can do their job, but the offense has to execute. So score points. Number 2, you got to suppress Chase and Higgins. These guys go for explosive plays. The Bengals are second in the NFL in 40-plus yard plays, and they're top 5, top 6 in some of the longest plays across the NFL. So you need to suppress their top 2 wide receivers. If Burrow has nobody to throw to, then maybe the pocket will break down. But you got to suppress those guys. You can't let those guys go off. Keep everything in front of you, as anyone would say to a shortstop or an infielder in baseball. But everything, just keep it in front of you. And number 3, it's kind of interesting here, right? What do I go with? You could keep a ground game because at the end of the day, they have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. But you could also say they got to get a turnover. I mean, they didn't get a turnover against Dallas. Against Cleveland, they got a monster number of turnovers. Didn't get a turnover against the Commandos. So, you know what? You do need a ground game, but go ahead and get a turnover. And play turnover-free football. How's that, right? Get a turnover, play turnover-free football. Collide those two. As a score prediction, I think the Giants will be very much in this game. I don't see them getting blown out, but it's the casual in me, and it's also the realist in me and the pessimist in me that's making me think that the Giants are going to lose this game. I don't think the Giants will have the offense to keep up with the Bengals. I think it's not so much about the defense. It's about the Giants not executing in many opportunities. To say that much, right? I don't think they'll be able to execute. And, God knows what will happen with Jamie Gillen. But I'm just not getting a great feeling. I know a lot of people are overlooking the Bengals, or they're thinking about the Bengals a certain way. This is a team that's coming in very desperate. And they're familiar with the prime time aura of the NFL. They're familiar with it. So I have the Giants losing. Let's go 28-22. 28-22, the Giants lose. And at this time, we'll be talking about maybe beating Philly the next week. And if not, the Giants win, then you could say the Giants have a season. So, like, comment, subscribe, folks. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into these. I apologize again for not having a content creator on. We'll try to get one on next week for the Eagles and kind of start that drive back up. Again, appreciate you guys. Let's go Big Blue. Let's hope for a win, and see you later.